This is something that we definitely want to do more of over the coming weeks and months, is find out what is happening in and around London and talk about it on the show.
Yes.
And we did mention a little bit earlier on in the show that it has been International Langar Week this week. And I'm really delighted to say that there were some big celebrations that took place in Trafalgar Square. So if you were working and maybe you were one of the many people who walked past and saw Langar Week, maybe you may have even had some food, then why don't you get in touch and tell us what it was like for you. 81333, start the message with London. We're joined in the studio to find out how successful International Langar Week has been, but also to find out the ethos behind it as well. We have Mejinderpal Kaur, who is Director of United Sikhs. We're also joined in the studio by Jasveer Singh, who is a Senior Press Officer for the Sikh Press Association. And we have Amandeep Singh, who is Sikh educator and lawyer. Pleasure to have you all
Welcome,
here.
guys.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming in. Let's talk about how you have all been giving and spreading a lot of happiness to a lot
Putting
of
smiles
people.
on people's faces.
A lot of smiles, yeah.
Definitely.
For Langar Week. We wanted to find out exactly what Langar Week is. So who's going to take the mantelpiece to explain what Langar actually
And what's been happening
means?
this week?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think probably it's a good foundation before we talk about Langar Week to just have a little crack at explaining, if I can, very quickly what Langar actually is.
Yes.
So for those of you that haven't heard about Langar, if this is the first time you've heard the word Langar, you're in for a treat. So Langar came to be, it's about a 500-year-old tradition started by the first of the Sikh gurus, whose name was Guru Nanak, who sort of saw a lot of inequality and poverty on the streets and the villages of the Indian subcontinent. And so recognising that this was the way of the world at that time, he set about creating a free kitchen for all people, to bring everyone together and say, it doesn't matter to me who you are or where you come from. If you're hungry, if you've got rumble in your tummy, come to my house and I will feed you for free. I mean, it's a tradition that was started by Guru Nanak 500 years ago, but it's carried on in every single Sikh temple, which is called a Gurdwara, across the world. And there are thousands of Sikh temples across the world. And inside each and every one of them, which will make it very unique from sort of any other faith, is we've got a dedicated free kitchen for all people at every single Sikh temple across the world. The most recognised, the most notable is in fact the Golden Temple, the Sri Harimandir Sahib, as it's called in the native language, which is in fact, I'm so proud to say this, it's the biggest kitchen in the world where they're dropping 100,000 meals a day to people from all different communities across the world. So that's what Langar is. This is Langar Week, which is a celebration and sort of a week where we sort of celebrate this system that is going on 24/7 across the world around the clock. And so what Jazz and the media teams that are behind Langar Week are doing, Jazz?
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially, the Langar Week was brought about because not enough people know about this concept. We're in the UK right now. 1.3 million people use food banks regularly. I was told a stat just before I got on that there's approximately 250,000 homeless people in the UK. 4.5 million children living in poverty. These are shocking statistics. And a lot of these people probably live right next to a Gurdwara, which is every single day serving free hot cooked meals. But they might look at a Gurdwara and think, be quite intimidated, especially in the kind of modern age. You might think that's not a place for me. That's a place for, those religious people, those people that look different from me. Whereas actually they don't know that they are more than welcome and that service is actually there for them. So Langar Week is about raising awareness of this service and letting people know that basically wherever there are Sikhs, no one should go hungry. There's meals for everyone.
So the important part of this is to basically say to people this week that it doesn't matter about your colour of skin, your religion, your background. Even if you are not a practicing Sikh, you can go into a Sikh temple if all you would like is a hot meal. A vegetarian-free hot meal, then you can do that.
Exactly that, 100%. And it's actually vegetarian to make sure that the food is there for anyone to eat. So there's no dietary restrictions. If you have any faith restrictions or anything, or you don't eat meat, the vegetarian food, by and large, most people will eat. And I think a really good example of how Langar is there for everyone is the work of United Sikhs, which is the organisation Mejinderpal does seva for, does selfless service for. They actually take Langar and make sure that it reaches crisis zones across the world.
Yeah, just last week, part of Langar Week for the Florence hurricane that took place in North Carolina, we served Langar. So as I was telling just before we came on, that if you equate the number of God forbid, hurricanes and typhoons and whatnot that happen in the world. You know, right now, Philippines and Indonesia are still recovering from what they had, the earthquake and stuff. That every time an organization like ours is out in the field, at least 3 months, we're serving langar.
Right.
And there are at least 2 or 3 other organizations. There's Sikh Relief, there's Khalsa Aid, when they go out to the field. And some of us serve thousands, some of us may serve hundreds. But if you equate all of that on any given day, I think there are at least 3-4 disasters in a year.
Right.
Thousands and hundreds of langar meals are being served, not next to a gurdwara, not in a gurdwara. That means langar has been outsourced to the disaster areas in the same fashion.
Right.
It's a meal that can be eaten by all. So United Sikhs in particular, we only serve vegetarian meals, even if we may be in the middle of a country where they only eat meat. The funny side of the story was that we, remember during the Asian tsunami of 2004, when we were serving langar to the people in Tamil Nadu, and they wanted fish because they were tired of eating dal and roti served to them. So you serve the people because they're hungry, not because you think they need their kind of food.
So when you look at, I mean, there's some of the numbers that are shocking when you talk about people here in the United Kingdom who are just as needed a hot meal as the people around the world. So how do you divide, I guess, the organisation and work out how much time and devotion is spent here in the United Kingdom and how much is spent in India or in Indonesia or in America, where you could argue that they've got things in place from the government to take care of their people. So how do you guys decide on when to go, and what are some of the obstacles you face to go and give help? Because I know some governments are reluctant to take help from charities.
Okay, as far as United Sikhs is concerned, we know people like SWAT are doing a wonderful job in London.
Yes.
In fact, when I was not involved in United Sikhs, all of us used to go down under the bridge, Waterloo Bridge. We all loved this art of, sort of giving some food and enjoying the walkabout and stuff like that. So it's in everyone. But when it comes to United Sikhs, in the main, most of our langar, though we do spot langars in cities like Melbourne and wherever else we are, our main focus is, to me, langar is one of the emergency services.
Right.
Because when you've had an earthquake or a typhoon or whatever sort of disaster, you want a hot meal. Because I'm not saying anything about the biscuits and the glucose tablets that people like the Red Cross might be giving out, but surely when you've had a cold like I have now, you want a hot meal. And if you've had just been your whole house washed away, so that's what langar does. It's one of the emergency services apart from the Band-Aid you would get or the orthopedic care in an earthquake that you would get. That langar needs to be there. So we prioritize langar as the first thing we serve.
Now, there's a lot more to talk about. And if this is the first time you're hearing about it and you're thinking, I'd really like some more details, I really would like to find out, about maybe my local Gurdwara, which is a Sikh temple. And as all of our guests have said, this is something that, is open to everyone. Then there is a website that you can go to get all of the details, and that's sikhpa.com. So sikhpa.com. And langar, by the way, although it's pronounced Lungar, it's actually spelt with an A. So it's Langar. So Langar Week. And if you are on the social media, if you just use the hashtag Langar Week, then you can get further details of that.
We're talking about Langar Week and sharing food, but that's not what it's all about as well. It's bringing communities together as well, just as important. And I think it's one of the things that I was brought up with.
Absolutely. I think if you've grown up within the Sikh community or the Sikh faith, then I suspect this is something that you already know about, and you may think that other people know about it as well. But the truth of the matter is that we are Sunny and I are also Sikh, a minority within a minority. In recent times, especially I'd say in the last 5 to 8 years, British Sikhs specifically, have decided to take the message of selfless service, of volunteering, of free food, of langar, to take it out of the Sikh temples and into the wider community. But the big aspect to this, Amandeep, is this is not about trying to preach the Sikh faith or trying to convert. It's nothing to do with that, is it? Because that is the other element which I have seen in social media people getting confused about. So I just wanted some understanding on that.
So excellent point. So it's not the preaching of it, it's the practice of it. So there is something that is very much entwined with the Sikh philosophy, which is that it should be through your actions that you can establish and see the example of what the Sikh values are. And I'll give you a really wonderful example. We were invited about 5 years ago to the Parliament of World Religions in Salt Lake City.
there?
Yeah, it was fantastic. There was imagine a place bigger than the XL if you can. It was
Wow.
absolutely huge.
That's why you miss each other.
Yeah, it was absolutely, you could probably land a plane within the centre. It was absolutely huge conference centre, and there was literally tens of thousands of delegates from all the different major religions and smaller religions across the entire world. And as you'd imagine, the Sikhs have been invited as well. A delegation of Sikhs went, and I was very fortunate to represent the Sikhs who went to that delegation. And they were all given individual stands to talk about their faiths. And when it came to dinner time, obviously the Sikhs set up a massive hall, and they decided they were going to just basically give everybody langar.
Yeah.
We didn't have a stand talking about our faith there,
Right.
and then what happened was at the end, when everyone was in this massive airport hangar, and they had the world religion leaders of all the world religions were speaking about their respective faiths, and one of those people actually stood up and said, "Look, could I just say we've all learnt a very beautiful lesson here today, and that is that a lot of people here have been speaking about their faiths, but the Sikhs are practicing it because they were out serving langar to everybody that was there." So again, the question is why on the streets of London is because this is what we're here to do. We're here to help people that are impoverished. This is our mandate. The mandate that was given to us by our 10th Guru was to go out into the world and bring light. The word Guru, in fact, means to bring light from darkness. And so if you see someone hungry, the question isn't why should we feed that person? It's I'm obliged to. Why would I not? The default position should be always to try and help, to always lend that hand, to always extend that hand of friendship and that smile.
Yeah. Oh yes, I'm smiling. I'm smiling.
But alongside that, we one of the stories that we're talking about tonight, and we're taking calls on 0800 731 2000, is about also this continuous conversation around housing, food, and sustainability. And one of the stories that we want to get your opinion on as well
it's very much it's on the BBC website, by the way, for tuning in, so you can get the details there. But it's Centre for London, the think tank, has done a report which has found that about 24,000 commercial properties in London could be turned into temporary housing, or even with the workspaces which are lying empty. And we're just getting that wider discussion tonight about homelessness and the fact that, you know, as we are fast approaching Christmas and December, and winter is, you know, very much upon us, and obviously it's getting darker and earlier. There are safety aspects as well. Homelessness is increasing so much. So what has been your experience, especially during Langar Week, of seeing these individuals? Because as much as earlier on, Jasveer, you were talking about food banks, I'm sure a lot of the people that you have met with have been homeless people. What's your perspective on this?
I found it quite interesting that when we held a London City Langar lunch, is how we titled it, at the great people at St Ethelburga's Church Peace and Reconciliation Centre in London. We held a langar there for lunch. We had all types of people coming. So we had people from the financial district, we had builders from the local building sites, and we had homeless people. And a lot of the homeless people were really well spoken, really polite. They seemed just as educated as me, and it begged the question, kind of, you know, how did they end up there?
Right.
And I think we're in a time now that financially people are finding it really difficult. Property, as we know, has skyrocketed across London. You know, you can't find anything really for much less than £500,000, and you know, who has that lying around really? Not many of us anyway.
Very true.
So I mean, with this kind of question about kind of properties in general, I mean, there's some real thinking that needs to be done about how we want to move forward ethically in this country, because the people that we used to consider as, you know, your stereotypical homeless person is somebody who's had a drug issue or perhaps a mental health issue, and they've just been unable to sustain a life.
Around them, yeah.
And now is someone that's just kind of unable to afford a place. They might even be working. There's people that are working that are in poverty. So I mean, there's a lot of thinking that needs to be done about the situation.
On a Tuesday night, we can have anywhere up to 150 homeless people queuing up for whatever we're serving for langar outside Charing Cross Police Station on a Tuesday night. And I met a counsellor, believe it or not, a counsellor. So, you know, I know, without going to stereotypes again, but you would think, well, to do you're working, you're in a safe, comfortable financial situation such that you can afford to volunteer and provide civic duty service in addition to your own, out of your own free time. Is a counsellor. So you're quite right. We have a situation here where homelessness is a real issue. And it's a real problem, not just for those that we might think have brought it upon themselves, that not that we should ever assume that someone has.
Very true.
Yeah.
And I spoke to him and said, how have you ended up in this situation? The way he explained it was so simple, it was heart-wrenching. He said, most people, they lose their job and they can recover. Someone else might get divorced and they can recover. He goes, and someone else might have a death in their family, they can recover. But I had all three in a very short space of time, and all it takes is a bit of bad luck and a perfect storm, and you end up like me. Wow. Can I have some pasta, please? What it's taught me is that every situation for anybody could be quite fragile. You don't know what's around the corner.
Very true. Mejinderpal, for yourself and United Sikhs, obviously travelling internationally as well. What's your perspective on the fact that this is happening to people here in London on a regular basis?
I mean, it's a crisis.
I've been away for 2 years, and this news about the think tank is fantastic because United Sikhs has been thinking about a food bank, because feeding people hot meals is the best thing that you can do for them,
right?
Because then they don't even have to cook.
Yes.
But there are people who, like you said, come from families. They're not just a lone homeless person, but families that need food. If you had a food bank, actually I was toying this idea with the Central Gurdwara, which is often called the Shepherd's Bush Gurdwara, but space constraints being what they are, because for a food bank you practically need a warehouse, and everyone has something in their larder that they can share within the sell by and use by date, and therefore food banks is the other way of feeding people, because these people can take their cartons and their tins back home and cook a meal if they could afford to have some gas and electricity, and be a family.
Now, if you'd like further details, then I would recommend go to the website. It's sikhpa.com, sikhpa.com, and you can get all of the details there. Langar week is coming to an end, but Langar does not. I think that's the best important thing.
I think we're going to make that clear. I think our guests can actually highlight why it doesn't stop after this week. Let's get his final thoughts and also what's going to happen from the rest of the year. I'll start with the
Jasveer,
PA.
yes.
Jasveer.
So Langar week comes to an end, but Langar continues in terms of the work we do. The Sikh Press Association, we're a community-funded organisation that will continue to just connect the Sikh community with the media, because a lot of people, they know about Sikhs, they recognise Sikhs in terms of visually, but what do they actually know about them? What do they know about Sikh philosophy? What do they know about Sikh practice? Probably not much. So we try and connect Sikhs with the media, and that's where great people like you come in and help us do that.
Oh, that's really nice of you to say. So we'll see you later on this year, I guess.
Yeah, I'm sure
but
it's going to be a busy one.
I guess I'm going to direct this question to you. I mean, Langar Week is here to highlight what's happening. You know, you've explained to us what it is, but what is the goal in your opinion about Langar Week? What are you trying to achieve? All right, feeding people, we get that, but there's going to be poverty. We know we're coming up to Brexit. We know we are coming to this place where just feeding people is not enough. What else are you trying to achieve?
Fantastic. We've got food for the stomach, which we've covered, but there's a food for the soul, which is we call community spirit. So the system of Langar that was created by Guru Nanak was a very advanced system. It was based on a foundation of love and compassion, and how that is illustrated by what Langar does. So if we think about us as a human race, we are what I like to call societal beings. We are set up not to function independently, but to function together as a community. And when we break away and have breaches in those communities, we're building walls and separating people, and we're building false barriers like what we're doing with Brexit and stuff like this, it becomes all the more necessary for things like Langar to bring us back together again.
Right.
So Langar is here as not just a food for your stomach if you're hungry, albeit that's the front line, that's the way it comes out to those homeless people in the very first instance. But on a higher level, it's about bringing people together. And if you go to any Sikh kitchen, if you go to any Sikh temple, any Gurdwara in the entire world, using that example, the famous example of the Golden Temple, you'll see Hindus, Muslims, Christians and Jews, people from all different faiths coming together and breaking bread. Because as I said, how do we as human beings celebrate friendship? We break bread with each other. And what Guru Nanak did was said, hey, I'm going to open up my house to all people. I'm going to break bread with all people. So Langar is about bringing people together. It's about that community and oneness of whole of humanity. Because when we come together is when we're strong. We know this from any historical movement, any historical race has always been strong when they've come together. When they've been divided, there's been weakness.
I think that's beautifully said. And with that, if someone's tuning in, they've got a bit of, spare time and thinking, okay, I would like to volunteer or even just be involved more. How do they do that? What's the best way to kind of find out?
Fantastic question. Thank you for that. Get involved. You can contact SWAT, and if you're in London town, you can come down to Charing Cross Police Station. You'll see us 4 nights out of the 7 in the week. We're out across the country 20 times a week.
Wow.
You can contact us at info@SWAT. On all social media platforms. Get in touch with us, and I promise you one thing, I'll make you one guarantee: wherever you come and give, you will receive so much more, because the real quality in giving is that actually we're set up as community beings to give, and when we serve, you will get that true feeling of contentment. So get out, get involved. The way I like to say is do the deed.
I like that. Do the deed. We need t-shirts with that.
For anyone who doesn't know, what does SWAT stands for? Have I got it right?
Yep, yeah. SWAT. So it's the Sikh Welfare and Awareness Team, not Special Weapons and Tactics.
I was going to say, people are going on like, really? These guys are serious.
No, but to be fair, we have got a special weapon and we have got a special tactic. I call it love and compassion.
There you go.
So we are in the streets. We've got weapons. We're weaponized, but our weapon is love, and I think that's the most powerful weapon you can serve people with.
Now that website, by the way, is swatlondon.com. So SWAT London.com. That's the best place to of get all of the details for SWAT as well. But just finally, Mejinderpal, for yourself, you mentioned earlier on the fact that United Sikhs is very much taking Langar to, an international basis in some of those places and countries which are stricken by war or natural disasters. What are the plans for United Sikhs for the rest of the year?
We respond to the act of God and also that there are man-made disasters as well. So we don't plan that. It plans for us. So we have to be ready, and as soon as we see something in breaking news, we have to be ready. What I want to comment about is we have to plan for Brexit. Now, I know it's a conversation that a lot of people are tired of having or will not have, but I've been away from the UK for 2 years on work with United Sikhs. And I've come back and I said, no one's talking about Brexit, but aren't we worried? Because I'm told there's no deal and bad deal and what will happen if there's a deal. But at the bottom line is, if house prices are going the way they are, then jobs are going the way they are. A time will come to the time, I think it was the 97 crisis, was it? I can't remember all the financial crisis, when the food banks began in Toronto, in America, and they still are there. So they haven't gone away. So this think tank information about commercial properties being available is fantastic, because charities like us, we do not have capital to buy up buildings, to have food banks, would love to be in the center of London where people will be affected, where people with some extra baked beans in their cupboard could bring to and people take away. So Langar is an equalizer, but actually it's something that our gurus saw, because a stomach is going to be there for life. I mean, every human being has a stomach. And the Chinese have a saying. The Chinese say if you sit down to a meal with someone, you become friends forever. So Langar is more than food, like Amandeep said. But I am concerned that if we do not recognize it, it's time we recognize it, that Brexit will actually open the doors for more and more communities to come and take it from the Sikhs, to learn about how we can do Langar, hot meals, not just serving, cold, whatever it is. And I think Langar is the answer for Brexit. I'm sorry to put it that way, but...
I think it's a fantastic conversation to have, and I'm sure if you're tuning into Radio London, you're going to want to respond to that, because I think Brexit is something that we've discussed extensively over the past 2 years. Mejinderpal, Jasveer, Amandeep, a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
and we will definitely get you back in to kind of follow up and find out how things are going as well. So thank you for joining us today. Now, if you want the website as well for United Sikhs, it's unitedsikhs.org. But I must stress, it's pronounced Sikh. But we say Sikh, but it's spelled SIKH. Okay, so if you want further details, we will tweet all of this. UnitedSikhs.org, SWATLondon.org, and then also the final website if you want further details, SikhPA.com. Thanks again to Amandeep, to Jasveer, and to Mejinderpal as well.